You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers! Today on the Air with Florenza, I'm joined by the brilliant Ruth Mancini, criminal defense lawyer turned psychological thriller powerhouse. Her newest novel, The Day I Lost You, dives into a missing child, buried secrets, and the kind of twists that grab you by the throat and don't let go. Get ready. This one's a wild one. Please put your hands together and welcome Ruth to the show. Thank you so much, Ruth, for joining me for this episode of On the Air with Florenza, where in just a few minutes, we are going to talk about your book, The Day I Lost You. And I told you before we came on the air, I don't know if I love you or hate you. This book pulled at all of my emotions.
Oh, I'm so pleased, and I'm so pleased to be here.
Oh my gosh. Before we dive in, we are going to toast to an amazing show. And I love you already. So, what are you drinking there, my friend?
It's a glass of rosé.
So, I think we are rose
Is that what you've got?
sisters. Yes, ma'am. We are
With the rose.
roses. Well, Rose, hey.
Rose, hey.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
So, yes. So, tell
Thank
the
you.
listeners a little bit about yourself and tell us what prompted this story and why is it necessary that it be told now?
Well, my name's Ruth Mancini, and I write crime thrillers, legal thrillers, and I think I can probably say that all of the books I've written have been motivated, inspired by cases that I've dealt with as a lawyer in court, and by me wanting to get another side across of lawyers. I'm a lawyer, and as you can see, I'm not stiff, I'm not starchy, I'm not particularly hard-nosed, and people think they have this impression of lawyers that they're a certain type of person, and I wanted to get across that actually we can be very caring, and most of the people I know who do the sort of work I do really, really absolutely passionate about helping people who come from backgrounds that have given them disadvantages in life.
Yeah. This is, by some accounts, your second book, but in actuality is your sixth. What was it like holding, because you have the UK version hardback of your book with you now. What was it like holding this book as opposed to your previous title, Woman on the Ledge?
Yeah, The Woman on the Ledge came out last year in both UK and in America too. And I think it came out at the same time. But yes, they were both published in January. Whereas you've got to wait a little bit longer in the States for this. But I think probably every book that I get, I've got a copy of it here.
Yes.
Every book that comes out looking so utterly beautiful,
Yes.
which has been worked on by so many fabulous people, so many people working behind the scenes, just brings me more joy than I can begin to tell you. I wrote my first story when I was 4, and crayons and the sort of talks and things, and presented it to my mother and was like, I've just written a book. And I think back then, I had this amazing sort of idea of what it would be like to be published, and it's a dream come true. It really is.
Now, what would 4-year-old Ruthie say to
That's what
Ruth
they called me.
today in terms of that flame that was lit those years ago to be who you are right now?
I think 4-year-old Ruthie, as my parents did call me and my family called me, um, would say that I've been incredibly, incredibly fortunate. And I really, every day, I'm so grateful for what's been brought to me because not everybody gets to
Yeah.
fulfill their childhood dream. It's taken me a long time
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a lot of hard work. So it hasn't just been luck, it's been a lot
Uh-huh.
of work. But I think I would have been proud of myself.
Oh, now you have two children.
I
What's
do.
their thought about the author side of their mother?
Well, this is an interesting question because actually my first child, my oldest child, who's 23, is severely learning disabled and autistic, and he doesn't speak. So I think if he could speak, um, he would probably be much like the other one,
Uh-huh.
who's 19. They're both boys, and I think they're sort of kind of like, oh, you've written a book. Oh, you got it published. Oh, okay. Back to the Xbox. So
Oh,
yeah, one day,
typical
one day
boys.
maybe they'll appreciate me.
Typical boys. Typical
Typical
boys.
boys, yeah.
So, The Day I Lost You opens with a jarring revelation, a seemingly ordinary day that turns extraordinary in the worst way. How did you approach writing that gut punch moment without giving away too much too soon?
Yeah, that was it. It's definitely because the story goes backwards, doesn't it, in time? And I think this is funny because I actually started writing it. I wrote 50,000 words, and my editor said, "You're telling it the wrong way round," and she made me go back and start all over again and switch it round. So in answer to your question, I actually was doing exactly that. I was giving away the ending. So it just goes to show that a book, publishing a book, is actually it's not just the author who's doing it.
Yeah,
There's so many people involved in making it the product that it's finally going to be. But yes, I managed to pull it off, and I think normally what I do is I plot, and that way I know that I'm going to have to I've got the middle of the onion and then the layers and
yeah,
layers around it. And I think anyone who writes crime fiction knows, you have got to wrap it up, haven't you?
yeah.
And make sure that you're just revealing in just the right way at the right time.
How differently do you think the book would have turned out had you had a different agent editor who perhaps allowed you to tell the story the way that you first intended?
I think I probably would have actually realised myself. In fact, I think
Yeah,
as once I've written the sort of 51st thousandth word, oh, I can't say that, can I? But you
yeah,
know what I mean. Once I'd got beyond 50,000 words, I think I was actually struggling and thinking this isn't right. This isn't going to work now because I've got nowhere to go with this. And so it was giving it to her, and she's absolutely brilliant. My editor in the UK is Selena Walker, at Century Books. And she's just a genius. She's an absolute genius. She's a legend in the industry. And, if anyone can, she can. So I just think, yes, it might have been harder with a different editor, a different publisher. But fortunately, I struck gold there.
yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I know that you can see Little Miss Piper has joined us. Sometimes she likes to crash interviews.
Oh.
So the novel weaves between truth and deception, motherhood, identity, and survival. What was the seed that first sparked the story for you?
It was actually inspired by somebody I represented in court. So the story is based, it's inspired by, I won't say it's based on a true story,
Yeah,
but it was inspired by a true story. And one of the events in the story, one of the significant events in the story happened in real life. And I represented somebody who ended up going to prison for something that they hadn't intended to do. And I think the spark for me was how it was a good person who'd done something life-changing for somebody else that had hurt somebody else but hadn't intended to. And I feel that that's a part of my job which
Yeah.
doesn't always come across when the tabloids and the media talk about people who are criminals and they've done this and they've done that, and we're not like that, we're perfect people. I just wanted to show really through this story that but for the grace of God go all of us,
All of
to
us.
some extent, because we never know how we might react in a certain situation. We'd like to think we'd do the right thing, but would we always?
Yeah.
So that was the message really in the
Yeah.
story.
Wow. Lauren's moral, talking about moral dilemmas. Lauren's moral dilemma feels hauntingly real, as it would based on a real life scenario. As both writer and woman, how did you navigate empathy for a character accused of something so unthinkable?
Yeah, it was hard, and it was obviously as a mother myself, the thought of losing your child is absolutely heartbreaking, and that's what the story, that's where the story begins, and where we discover we're going with it. Two women who are both claim that the same child is their son,
Yeah.
and one. Lauren says no, he's mine. I've got the passport, birth certificate to prove it. And Hope says, no, he's mine. And it's a bit of a judgment of Solomon's story, going
I
back to
was
the
this,
Bible.
you took it out my mouth. I was getting ready to say, man, Solomon had this dilemma, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely, that's right. And so there's no babies obviously getting chopped in half in my
Yeah.
story. But I wanted to just say that at the outset. I'm very much an emotional writer rather than a graphic one. So when crimes do happen, I'm not really into guts and gore and
Yeah.
bodies on slabs and things. So you won't see any of that in my books. But yes, it's that I think that the biblical
Yeah.
sort of storyline kind of sprang out at me, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like how do you arbitrate when you've got
Yeah.
two women saying he's mine and no,
Yeah.
he's mine, and
Yeah.
what Sarah Kellerman, the lawyer in the story, has to do is get to the bottom of it and
Yeah.
what really happened and how
Yeah.
to bring it to a conclusion where it's not going to become even more tragic.
Yeah. And the baby was not split in two, but as readers, our emotions were savagely split because no matter where you find yourself in whose camp, Lawrence or Hope's, at the end of the day, it really is about Sam, right? So like you're stuck in this sense of what it comes down to. So, oh, beautifully, beautifully done. Now, the Spanish setting pulses with beauty and unease, almost a character of its own. What drew you to a place to place a story about loss and reinvention beneath Mediterranean skies?
Well, obviously, we've got a woman who is accused of taking somebody else's baby. So the logical thing for her to do would be to go abroad. And it just coincided with the fact that my family wanted to go on holiday. And we haven't been on many holidays over the years because of my son's disability.
Uh-huh.
So it was actually the first time we'd been away for 18 years, I think. The first time we'd been abroad, and we went to a Spanish coastal resort, very much like the one in the story. So I got a lot of my inspiration from that, and did my research out there.
Now, did the vacation come before the beginning of the story?
They both came together, but I knew that I wanted to I wanted to write another story, and I knew that I was going to have to set part of it abroad. And it could have been anywhere. If my husband had said, let's go to Greece, the story probably would have been set in Greece. Having said that, I do speak Spanish. I love Spanish food. I studied Spanish actually back in the 80s, and I spent some time in Madrid and in Barcelona. So it's a place that's very dear to my heart, Spain. And it's very easy from the UK. It's a bit
Yeah,
further for you,
yeah.
but for us, it's a 2 hour hop to
Okay.
Barcelona. So, yeah, that was the
Nice.
area it was set.
I love that. Now you balance emotional suspense with procedural precision. From Interpol notices to police interviews. Other than it being your real lived experience, how much additional research did you undertake to make these legal and psychological details ring true?
Quite a lot with this one. My last book, The Woman on the Ledge, and probably I'd say my previous books as well, um, were much easier because that they were really the job. That was the job I did. It was in this country we have solicitors and barristers, and they're all under the term lawyer,
Mhm.
under the same umbrella. And solicitors generally prepare the case, whereas barristers generally go to court. That's changed a bit now, and it's blurred. The lines have been blurred a bit. So I go to court and I prepare cases.
Okay.
But what I generally did a lot of over the last 25 years was going to the police station, which when somebody first gets arrested, to represent them. And it's a very exciting, should we say, not exciting for the person who's been arrested, obviously, or the
Right.
victim, but exciting to the extent that you have to be on your toes. There's a lot of adrenaline, because it's a bit of a cat and mouse game, really, with the police in
Yes.
trying to keep abreast of things because they'll only disclose a certain amount. So that book was very much my home territory, and I didn't have to do much research for that because that was my job every day. But with The Woman on the Ledge, sorry,
No.
but with The Day I Lost You,
Yeah.
but with The Day I Lost You, there was, as you know from because you've read it, quite a bit of different law in there. So there was
Yes.
family law, there was extradition law, like getting somebody back from a foreign country to the UK. And I did have to do, I got myself into something, should never have gone to Spain and it would never happened. But I got myself into something that once I'd started, I wanted to continue with. And so I realised I had to do quite a bit of research. But I'm very fortunate that I do have quite a lot of contacts and friends. So I had a good friend who does family law, so she was able to give me some advice on what the law was around the two women and who had the rights to the child. And I had a great author friend of mine, Graham Bartlett, who publishes books in this country, and possibly America as well. I should probably know that. He's an ex-police officer and quite a senior police officer in Brighton, Sussex Police Force.
Uh-huh.
He gives lots of advice to his fellow authors. He's brilliant like that. So he helped me out with that.
Wonderful.
I do
Relation.
like to be realistic, so I
Yeah.
like to
Oh,
do the
very
research.
realistic. I felt like we were
Yeah.
right there. Now, relationships in the novel, especially with Lauren and Gabe, blur the line between protection and obsession. What did you want readers to question about love's boundaries?
Oh gosh. Well, yeah, I mean, love for a child is like it's a love like no other, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that was very clear that both Hope and Lauren were not going to stop to until they would fight to the death,
Yeah.
really, for that child. Whereas Drew, I'm not saying that fathers don't
Right.
feel the same way, but Drew in the story was a little bit more morally
Yeah.
ambiguous, wasn't he?
He
And
was.
so he caused issues really for both women, and that's what the story will go on to show. But I think I wanted to show that, yeah, when we're pushed to the edge of what's morally acceptable, if it comes to someone we love, where will we stop? What will we
Yeah.
do for that person?
Yeah. The men in your life, having read, now have they read the story and what is their take on the position that Drew takes in the story, which even though he's ambiguous, there are parts of you that feel like, yes, I understand, like he's that Solomon in some places, like, okay, I've got to hear this out. I've got, like, don't
quite pick a side, even though by not picking a side, it looks like I'm picking a side. And to which woman am I picking a side? And, am I going to get the frying pan to the head, because I'm picking a side? Are there any men in your life that were like, Ruth, you really could have like made him more forceful?
What do these men say? I think it's a question for the women, isn't it?
It is.
It's what will they say and what do you say? I've had varying comments really about Drew, and I hope I'm answering your question correctly. But he's a character that's been looked at differently by different people. So I
Yeah.
suppose it depends on how much you as a woman are willing to, or we as women are willing to accept from a man.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite an interesting one because I had quite a few people saying I didn't like him at all and they should have, and I was like, oh, well, you know, he did have a nice side. So maybe that makes me a little bit softer, too soft. Maybe he would have walked over me.
No, I love it. That's a great answer. It really is. The book explores how grief reshapes identity. How was writing The Day I Lost You changed or revealed something about you as the storyteller?
Oh, I think probably that does. I think I discovered through writing this story that I didn't know completely where I stood on some of the moral
Yeah,
questions that it raises. And I
yeah,
think really it wasn't until I got to the end of the story that I was able to come to some conclusions. But I think what it does feed into is what I do as a lawyer and what I have to do as a legal aid lawyer in this country, defending people who generally can't afford to pay for their own defence, so that we are effectively the public defenders. That's the job I do, and I think I've learned through my writing generally that you have to not not to be judgmental really
yeah,
about people and to try and understand them. And maybe that's why I didn't give Drew such a hard time
yeah.
in my mind as some of the readers have been giving him when
Yeah.
they report back. So yeah, just being open-minded, I think, is the answer.
Yeah. I have so many questions and my brain is twisting because I don't want to have any spoiler alerts, but I will say this. The epilogue was both brilliant, mind-bending, frustrating, and brilliant again.
Oh,
Was
well, that's
that an
lovely.
add-on or was that always part of the original story to tell?
Always part of the story. I'm a plotter. I didn't know quite how I was going to get there, but I knew it had to end that way. I knew Sarah Kellerman had to do something
Yeah.
to resolve this situation, and I'm trying not to give any spoilers.
Yes.
It had to be resolved in a way that was going to satisfy at least the majority of people, because you can't satisfy everybody, can you?
You
And
cannot.
I've read some reviews where some people thought, justice wasn't done, and other people thought, "Gosh, how did we manage to pull it off?
Yeah.
How did Sarah manage to pull it off and get a conclusion that would um, keep most people happy?" And I'm trying again here
Yes, I
not to
know.
give
And
too
you have
much
to
away,
tap dance.
obviously.
Now, how much like Sarah are you?
Very much like Sarah. I would go as far as to say I have completely drawn on myself and my own experiences in creating Sarah. She even has a disabled son. He doesn't
Yeah.
come much in. He doesn't come into either of these stories actually,
Yeah.
but he's come into the next one, which I've just finished writing, which is called The Stranger on the Stairs, and that's coming out next year in the UK. Watch this space in America, but it's it's definitely the case that I think really she's why I started writing. I wanted to get across the intricacies and difficulties of the job that I do and that me and
Yeah,
my colleagues do, which is goes back to what I was saying really earlier, that we're not in this job for the money, really.
yes,
It's about caring about people and absolutely having a strong sense that everyone should have the right to a defence, no matter what background they come from. And we feel quite passionate about the rule of law and access to justice for everybody, not just for people who've got money to pay
yeah.
for it.
That's a perfect time to ask, what has the response been from your colleagues? And what are they saying in terms of this other life that you're living, Miss Ruth?
My colleagues have been absolutely fantastic. I'm very lucky. I still work for a large law firm in the UK called Tucker's, brilliant firm, and we have offices all over the country, and a team of a couple of hundred people actually. Absolutely fantastic, dedicated lawyers who go out to the police station in the middle of the night, then they get up and go and do a trial the next day. But you know what? It would be very easy for them to sort of say, "Oh, Ruth has gone off and she's writing books and she's doing something else, and here we are fighting on the coal face." But you know what? They've been 100% supportive of me, absolutely brilliant. And a lot of them read my books, and some of them, will read as I write and give me a little bit of feedback on the law and so forth. Because two heads, three heads are always better than one, aren't they?
Yes, I
So
love
yeah, I'm so
it.
proud. I'm so proud of my team.
I love it. I do have one last question in reference
Mm.
to it's going to take us to The Woman on the Ledge. Readers who devour domestic thrillers will see echoes of your earlier work, The Woman on the Ledge. How do you continue to evolve your voice within the psychological suspense genre without it becoming stale?
I hope so, because there's always a new story to tell, and because of the job that I've done for the last 25 years,
Yeah.
there's always a new crime story to tell. I'm still practicing, as I say, in a very minor way because writing is what I do mostly now. But I'm still in touch. I'm still talking to my lawyer friends, and I'm still reading my legal digests every day, and I'm still looking in the news, and I'm a big true crime fan. Watch a lot of American true crime too. So there's a lot of inspiration for stories, and stories that can be told in a different way, whereby you, I think, might have a little bit more compassion
Yeah.
for somebody who finds themselves on the wrong side of the law than you might otherwise have done. And that's what I hope to do through my writing.
Wonderful. Where are the listeners able to engage with you and to become true fans of Ruthie's?
Oh, I love that you call me Ruthie. My family call me Ruthie. I am ruth.mancini.author on Instagram and Facebook. And I am, please come and friend me or follow me. I'd love to see you there. I'm not a big engager with social media, but I always reply to people. I don't post a lot because I'm a bit I don't seem shy, but I am a little bit online. And I'm on Twitter as well, as Ruth at Ruth Mancini one. But I always love chatting to people, and my email address is ruth@ruthmancini.com. It's in the back of my books. I really am more than happy to chat and answer questions, and I hope to see you maybe in person sometime in
Yes,
the States.
love it. So we're going to take a sip. Mm-mm. Any reason
Mm.
to drink on this show? We do. I have we've come to the part that
Wonderful.
I call last call, and this is
Yeah.
just some fun questions like we had in our intermission segment. And I have, I think we can get through three, maybe four. So the first one is a true or false. You, you would make an excellent detective in real life. I'm going to say true.
I think I might. I think I might give myself that one as true. In some ways, I don't know if I'd make an excellent police detective because I'm not sure that I fit with that culture, but I think I've got a good nose for following a story. And I enjoy that in my books. Sometimes there will be something that I know Sarah has to resolve, and I don't know how she's going to do it, and then it just happens. So I think I could probably do that in real life.
Yes, fill in the blank. The one scene that broke you, even as the author, was blank. Make sure it's not a spoiler because there are some spoilers that broke me that I don't want to do a spoiler. So anything that won't give it
Do
away.
you mean did I make myself cry? Is that what you
Yes,
mean?
yes,
I make myself cry all the time. I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional person. But yeah, I think when I think I cried probably quite a lot when I was writing The Day I Lost You. Just because anything to do with children. I'm a
yeah,
mother, and the thought of losing one of my children
yeah,
is just, well, it's the most horrific thing, isn't it? And
it
I'm very,
is.
very sorry to anyone watching this who has lost a child,
Yeah,
and you might not want to read this story.
yeah,
But it's not a, I mean, it's not graphic in that
right.
sense. So
Yes.
it's just emotional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the last one, what's the strangest Google search you've done while researching for any of your books?
Oh, this is so funny, isn't it? I often think how funny it would be if the police got hold of my computer and looked at my online searches. Um, I,
Yes,
yeah, I mean, I've Googled all sorts. I have to say, I can't think off of the top of my head, but anybody who's watching this who is a writer, are you a writer, Florenza?
yes,
You,
yes,
well, you know what I'm talking about then, don't you? The
yes,
most bizarre things. And as you're typing it in, you're laughing to yourself because you're just imagining somebody else seeing your search history and trying to make, oh my goodness.
yes,
But but then that brings to mind the thought of a story, doesn't it? Where
yes.
a writer uses that as a defense. Oh, yes, it was a,
It
yeah, I
was a
wasn't planning to kill
research.
anyone. I think probably one of the funniest things conversations I've ever had was when I was writing one of my first books, which was In the Blood. And I asked somebody at the school gates, what would you do if you wanted to poison your child? And she gave me rather a funny look. But I asked her that question because she worked at the local hospital and was a biochemist there. So I knew she knew about toxicology. I think her husband was a toxicologist. But yeah, I just like grabbed at the school gates and said, hey, what would you do if you wanted to poison your child? And there was other people around, sort of like, she's like, I'm not sure I should answer that question in public.
I'm surprised the police didn't show up at your house.
But I'm a defense lawyer, so I would have all the answers, wouldn't I?
Yes. Well, thank you, Ruthie. This has been so much fun.
Oh, yes, it has. And I thank you so much, Florenza, for having me on the show. And what's your dog's name?
Piper Rain.
Pipe. Piper Rain. So nice to meet you, Piper Rain.
Oh.
Oh.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.